Money miracles are real, and if you are listening to this right now, it is not an accident. There comes a moment in every life when the struggle is not ended by effort alone, but by alignment, by faith, by a deep inner decision to believe beyond what the eyes can see. Your breakthrough is not far away, it is not delayed by years, and it is not reserved for someone else. It is closer than you think, one sincere prayer away. You may have worked hard, worried silently, and carried financial pressure that no one else understands. Yet miracles do not respond to fear or desperation. They respond to belief. Money is not your enemy, and lack is not your destiny. When you change the way you speak, think, and pray, you change the direction of the energy around you. Prayer is not begging, it is aligning your mind and spirit with abundance, reminding yourself that a higher power is already working on your behalf. When you pray with faith, something begins to move, even if you cannot see it yet. A new idea forms, the right person appears, an unexpected opportunity opens, or a delay protects you from loss. Most miracles arrive quietly, and that is why you must stay aware and grateful before the answer shows up. Gratitude is the signal that tells the universe you are ready to receive more. If you have been waiting for a sign, this is it. Do not pray from a place of weakness. Pray with confidence, as someone who knows their help is near. Speak life instead of lack, trust instead of fear, and certainty instead of doubt. Money miracles are real, divine provision is real, and your breakthrough is already on its way. Hold your faith steady, keep your heart open, and watch how things begin to change, starting now. Money miracles are real, even if your past experiences try to convince you otherwise. The mind is trained by repetition, and when struggle repeats itself long enough, it begins to feel permanent. Bills arrive, opportunities seem limited, effort does not always produce immediate results, and slowly a quiet belief forms that life is meant to be hard. But that belief is not truth, it is conditioning. Reality is far more flexible than you were taught, and abundance responds to awareness in ways most people never pause long enough to understand. A money miracle does not always look like a sudden pile of cash falling from the sky. Sometimes it begins as a shift inside you, a moment when fear loosens its grip and hope quietly takes its place. That internal change matters more than any external result, because money follows mindset before it follows motion. When you truly begin to believe that provision is possible for you, not just for others, you start sending a different signal into the world. Your choices become calmer, your actions more intentional, and your energy less desperate. This is where miracles start, not in chaos, but in clarity. Many people unknowingly block financial breakthroughs because they associate money with stress, guilt, or unworthiness. They want abundance, but they are afraid of it at the same time. They worry that having more will change them, expose them, or make them responsible in ways they do not feel ready for. The universe responds honestly to these mixed signals. It does not punish, but it mirrors. When belief and fear exist together, progress feels slow. When belief becomes dominant, movement accelerates. Money miracles are real because life is responsive. Thoughts are not passive. Words are not harmless. What you repeat internally becomes the lens through which you interpret opportunities. A person who expects lack overlooks open doors. A person who expects provision notices patterns, connections, and timing that others miss. This is not fantasy, it is focus. Your attention decides what becomes visible to you, and visibility is the first step to receiving. There are people who prayed for years without seeing results, not because prayer failed, but because their inner conversation never changed. They asked for abundance while constantly rehearsing reasons it would not happen. They spoke hope aloud but fed doubt privately. A miracle requires agreement between what you desire and what you believe is possible. When those two finally meet, resistance dissolves, and what once felt impossible begins to feel natural. Money itself is neutral. It carries no moral judgment, no intention, no bias. It moves toward value, clarity, and confidence. When you believe money is scarce, you cling to it anxiously or push it away subconsciously. When you understand money as a tool, as energy, that supports purpose, generosity, and growth, your relationship with it changes. and relationships, even with money, determine outcomes. A money miracle often shows up as timing that cannot be explained. You meet the right person at the right moment. You hear an idea that sparks income where none existed before. A delay saves you from loss. An ending clears space for something better. At first, these moments seem small, almost ordinary, but looking back, you realize they were turning points. Miracles rarely announce themselves loudly. They whisper first, testing whether you are paying attention. Faith is not pretending everything is fine when it is not. Faith is choosing trust, even when evidence is incomplete. It is saying, I do not see the whole path, but I am willing to take the next step. Money miracles respond to movement, not panic. When you act from trust, you make better decisions, you listen more carefully, you stop chasing everything and start aligning with what fits. That alignment creates momentum, and momentum attracts resources. There is also a deep connection between gratitude and financial flow. Gratitude does not mean settling for less. It means recognizing that something is already working. When you acknowledge what you have, you signal readiness for more. Complaining narrows perception. Gratitude expands it. A grateful mind is alert, creative, and resilient. These qualities naturally lead to better outcomes, including financial ones. Many breakthroughs happen right after a person decides to stop measuring their worth by their bank balance. When self-worth stabilizes, money stops being a measure of survival and becomes a partner in expression. You no longer chase it to prove something. You allow it to support who you already are. This shift removes pressure, and pressure is one of the biggest blocks to receiving. Money miracles are real because life is not fixed. Circumstances change faster than beliefs do, and when belief finally shifts, reality often rushes to catch up. What feels like a miracle is often alignment meeting opportunity at the right time. You were ready internally, before anything changed externally. That readiness is invisible to others, but it is powerful. If you are in a season of waiting, it does not mean nothing is happening. Roots grow in silence. Preparation happens before reward. Sometimes your patience is strengthening your character so you can handle what is coming. Sometimes your delay is protecting you from receiving too early and misusing what you asked for. Trust does not mean passivity, it means cooperation with timing you cannot yet see. The moment you stop saying money never works out for me and start saying I am learning to receive better, you open a door. The moment you stop asking why it is hard and start asking what this season is teaching you, you reclaim power. Money miracles are not about escaping effort, they are about aligning effort with belief so that results are no longer random. You do not need to convince the universe. You need to convince yourself that abundance is allowed in your life. Once that belief settles, your actions, words, and decisions begin to match it. That consistency creates trust, and trust attracts support. Help comes through people, ideas, timing, and opportunities that feel almost too perfectly placed to be coincidence. In the end, a money miracle is not just about finances. It is about relief, peace, and the quiet realization that you are supported. It is about knowing that life is not against you, even when it challenges you. When you hold that knowing steadily without forcing or begging, you step into a flow where provision feels natural rather than rare. And once you experience that even once, you realize something important. Money miracles were never imaginary. They were always possible. You simply had to believe long enough to let one reach you. Your breakthrough is one prayer away, not because prayer is a magic formula, but because prayer is the moment you stop fighting life alone. There is a point where effort reaches its limit, and control becomes exhaustion. That is usually where people either harden their hearts or soften them. Prayer begins when you choose to soften. It is the decision to admit that something greater than fear exists, and that you do not have to carry everything by yourself anymore. Many people misunderstand prayer as repeating words or asking for rescue, but real prayer is alignment. It is the instant when your inner noise quiets enough for truth to surface. In that stillness, you stop demanding outcomes and start opening yourself to guidance. That opening is powerful. It shifts your state from resistance to receptivity, and receptivity is where breakthroughs live. A breakthrough rarely arrives when you are frantic. Panic narrows perception. Worry keeps the mind looping in the same limited conclusions. Prayer interrupts that loop. When you pray sincerely, You momentarily step outside your fear-based thinking. You remember that you are not cut off, forgotten, or unsupported. That remembrance alone can change everything, because decisions made from calm trust are different from decisions made from survival mode. There are moments when one prayer does more than years of struggle because that prayer is honest. It is not polished or perfect. It is not spoken to impress or perform. It is raw, quiet, and real. In those moments, defenses drop, pride dissolves, you stop pretending you have it all together, and that humility creates space for help to enter. People often think prayer works by changing circumstances, but its first work is internal. It reorders priorities. It clarifies what actually matters. It replaces mental clutter with focus. Once that internal shift happens, external movement becomes possible. You notice opportunities you were too distracted to see before. You hear ideas that were drowned out by anxiety. You recognize doors that were always open but invisible to a stressed mind. Your breakthrough being one prayer away does not mean life instantly becomes easy. It means direction becomes clear. Sometimes the answer to prayer is strength instead of escape. Sometimes it is wisdom instead of speed. Sometimes it is patience when impatience would have led you into loss. What feels like delay may actually be protection, and prayer helps you trust that without resentment. There are people who prayed once and felt nothing, so they stopped believing. What they did not realize is that prayer plants seeds. Some answers rise quickly, others grow underground. Just because you cannot see movement does not mean nothing is happening. Growth often begins in silence. Trust is built in waiting. Faith matures when outcomes are not immediate. Prayer also changes the way you speak to yourself. After genuine prayer, self-talk softens. Harsh inner criticism loses its edge. You become kinder with yourself, and that kindness creates resilience. Resilient people do not quit when progress is slow. They adapt. They persist calmly instead of pushing desperately. That calm persistence is often what carries them into their breakthrough. A prayer is powerful because it gathers scattered energy. When you pray, your attention becomes unified. Instead of worrying about 10 possible failures, you focus on one truth, that you are being guided. Focus concentrates energy, and concentrated energy moves things. This is why clarity often follows prayer. You suddenly know what step to take next, even if you do not know the whole path. Some breakthroughs happen because prayer helps you release control. Control can feel like safety, but it is often fear in disguise. When you let go of needing to micromanage outcomes, you allow solutions that are better than your imagination. Life has more options than your mind can calculate. Prayer hands the problem to a larger intelligence and frees you from carrying it alone. There is also a timing aspect to prayer that people overlook. Not every desire is ready the moment it is spoken. Sometimes you are still becoming the person who can handle the answer. Prayer aligns timing as much as outcome. It prepares you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, so that when the breakthrough arrives, it strengthens you instead of overwhelming you. Your breakthrough being one prayer away does not mean effort becomes irrelevant. It means effort becomes guided. Instead of exhausting yourself trying everything, you begin doing the right things. Instead of chasing every opportunity, you recognize the ones meant for you. Prayer sharpens discernment. It saves time, energy, and unnecessary pain. Many people experience their biggest breakthroughs right after they stop praying from fear. Fear-based prayer sounds like desperation, bargaining, and panic. Faith-based prayer sounds like trust, surrender, and quiet confidence. When your prayer shifts from, "Please fix this," to "Show me what to do," something changes. Responsibility returns to you without the weight of fear. Prayer also reconnects you with purpose. When you remember why you want the breakthrough, not just what you want, motivation becomes cleaner. You stop wanting money, success, or relief to prove something. You want them to live, give, grow, and contribute. Purpose-driven desires attract support because they are aligned with growth, not ego. There are moments when one prayer feels like a turning point because it marks a decision to stop doubting yourself, a decision to stop repeating old stories, a decision to trust again after disappointment. That internal decision is often what unlocks progress. The prayer is simply the expression of that decision. Sometimes the breakthrough is not an external event, but an internal release. Forgiveness happens, fear loosens, confidence returns. You stop carrying guilt or shame that was silently blocking progress. These inner breakthroughs often lead to external change shortly after, because energy flows more freely. Prayer reminds you that you are not alone in uncertainty. Even when answers are unclear, support is present. That awareness reduces pressure, and reduced pressure, judgment. Improved judgment leads to better choices. Better choices accumulate into better results. What feels like a miracle is often the compound effect of clarity replacing fear. Your breakthrough being one prayer away does not mean you pray once and wait forever. It means every sincere prayer keeps you aligned. Each one strengthens trust, sharpens awareness, and steadies your emotions. Over time, this alignment becomes a state, not an action. You live from trust instead of visiting it occasionally. When people look back on their lives, they often realize their biggest changes began with a quiet moment, not a dramatic event. A moment when they admitted they needed help. A moment when they chose faith over control. A moment when they prayed honestly for the first time in a long while. That moment did not fix everything, but it changed the direction of everything. In the end, prayer does not make you passive, it makes you grounded. Grounded people move with confidence instead of chaos. They listen before acting. They respond instead of reacting. They notice signs instead of forcing outcomes. That grounded movement is what carries breakthroughs from possibility into reality. Your breakthrough is one prayer away, because prayer brings you back into alignment with wisdom greater than fear. It does not remove responsibility, it refines it. It does not erase challenges, it equips you to face them. And when you are aligned, equipped, and open, life responds, often quietly, often unexpectedly, but always in ways that move you forward when you are ready to receive. Prayer is alignment, not begging, and this understanding alone can completely transform the way a person experiences faith, life, and results. Many people approach prayer from a place of fear, shortage, and emotional exhaustion. They kneel inwardly as if life is holding something back from them, and they must convince a higher power to finally release it. In that state, prayer feels heavy, desperate, and uncertain. But true prayer was never meant to come from weakness. It was meant to come from remembrance. Remembrance of connection, of support, of order, and of trust. Begging assumes separation. It assumes that help is far away, reluctant, or conditional. Alignment assumes the opposite. Alignment recognizes that you are already part of something greater, already supported by laws, intelligence, and order that operate whether you notice them or not. When you pray from alignment, you are not asking life to change its nature. You are adjusting yourself to move in harmony with it. That shift is subtle, but it is everything. When prayer becomes alignment, the tone changes. The words may sound similar on the surface, but the energy underneath is completely different. Instead of "please don't let this fall apart," it becomes "show me how to move through this wisely." Instead of "why is this happening to me," it becomes "what is this teaching me?" These are not just nicer phrases, they are signals of trust, and trust is what opens flow. Alignment in prayer begins with stillness, not silence for performance, not forced calm, but a genuine pause where you stop rehearsing fears and allow your nervous system to settle. In that moment, you stop arguing with reality. You stop fighting what already is. Resistance softens, and when resistance softens, clarity has room to emerge. Many answers people beg for are already present, but the noise of panic keeps them hidden. Prayer aligns your inner world before it influences the outer one. This is why prayer often changes how you feel before it changes what happens. That internal shift is not a consolation prize, it is the mechanism. A calm mind sees solutions. A regulated body makes better choices. A grounded heart attracts cooperation instead of conflict. These are not mystical ideas, they are practical consequences of alignment. Begging keeps the mind focused on lack. Alignment shifts focus to capacity. When you beg, you reinforce the belief that you do not have enough, are not enough, or are too late. When you align, you acknowledge that even if the situation is difficult, you are resourced enough to move forward. That acknowledgement changes posture, voice, decision-making, and timing. Life responds differently to someone who moves with quiet confidence than to someone who moves with desperation. Prayer as alignment also removes the pressure to control outcomes. Control often masquerades as responsibility, but it is usually fear trying to guarantee safety. In prayer, alignment teaches surrender without passivity. You still act, but you act without gripping the result. You do your part and trust that what is beyond your reach is being handled. That trust frees energy that would otherwise be wasted on worry. Many people think prayer is about persuading a higher power to agree with their plan. Alignment reveals that prayer is about discovering a better plan. Sometimes what you ask for is not wrong, but incomplete. Prayer opens perspective. It allows you to see why certain doors did not open, and why certain delays occurred. What once felt like rejection begins to look like redirection. When prayer is alignment, guilt dissolves. You stop feeling like you are asking for too much or unworthy of receiving. You understand that growth, provision, and peace are natural movements of life, not favors handed out selectively. This removes shame from desire. You no longer feel the need to justify wanting relief, success, or stability. You accept them as reasonable and attainable. Alignment also changes how you listen. Prayer is not a monologue, it is a relationship. When begging dominates, listening disappears. The mind is too busy listing problems to receive guidance. Alignment creates space to notice intuition, insight, and subtle direction. Sometimes the answer does not come as words, but as a sense of certainty, a nudge, or a sudden clarity about what to do next. Prayer as alignment trains patience without resignation. You learn the difference between waiting and stagnating. Waiting in alignment is active. You prepare, refine, and remain attentive. You do not rush timing, but you also do not give up movement. This balance is powerful. It keeps you engaged without being frantic. Another shift that occurs is how you interpret obstacles. Begging frames obstacles as proof of abandonment. Alignment frames them as information. Instead of asking, "Why is this blocking me?" you ask, "What is this asking me to adjust?" That question alone can turn frustration into strategy. Many breakthroughs occur not by pushing harder, but by shifting direction slightly. Prayer as alignment strengthens self-respect. You stop seeing yourself as small or helpless. You recognize that asking for guidance does not diminish you, it refines you. There is dignity in alignment. It says, "I am willing to learn, to grow, to cooperate with wisdom." That posture invites respect from others as well, because people sense groundedness even if they cannot explain it. Over time, aligned prayer becomes less about words and more about state. You live in a way that feels prayerful. Decisions are made thoughtfully. Reactions are slower. Gratitude becomes natural rather than forced. Even challenges are met with curiosity instead of panic. This does not mean life stops testing you. It means tests no longer define you. One of the most powerful aspects of alignment is that it restores trust after disappointment. Many people stop praying because they once begged and did not receive what they wanted. Alignment reframes that experience. It shows that unanswered prayers were not ignored, they were guiding. Perhaps you were spared something that would have harmed you. Perhaps timing was not aligned. Perhaps you outgrew the desire itself. Understanding this heals the relationship with prayer. Prayer as alignment also brings honesty. You stop pretending to be strong when you are not, and you stop dramatizing when calm would serve you better. You show up as you are. That authenticity is grounding. It allows real transformation instead of temporary emotional relief. When you align instead of beg, you stop outsourcing your power. Why? Well, you recognize that prayer does not replace action. It informs it. You still make calls, take steps, and face risks, but you do so with guidance instead of guesswork. This reduces regret because even when outcomes are not ideal, you know you acted with clarity. Over time, this way of praying changes identity. You no longer see yourself as someone waiting to be saved, but as someone being guided. That shift affects every area of life: relationships, work, money, health, and self-trust. You stop asking, "Will this work out for me?" and start asking, "How can I move in harmony with what is unfolding?" In moments of crisis, alignment-centered prayer is especially powerful. It steadies the nervous system. It prevents impulsive decisions made from fear. It anchors you when circumstances feel unstable. You may still feel pain, but you are not consumed by it. You remain connected to meaning even when answers are incomplete. Ultimately, prayer is alignment because it brings you back to yourself. Not the fearful self, not the defensive self, but the grounded self that knows it belongs, that knows it can adapt, that knows support exists even when it is unseen. From that place, life flows more easily. Solutions appear more naturally. Opportunities feel less forced. When you stop begging and start aligning, prayer stops feeling like a last resort and becomes a daily posture. You no longer pray only when things fall apart. You pray to stay centered when things are going well. That consistency builds resilience and trust over time. And perhaps the greatest gift of aligned prayer is peace. Not the absence of challenge, but the presence of steadiness. A quiet confidence that whatever company as you will meet it with clarity rather than collapse. From that place, breakthroughs do not feel shocking or unbelievable. They feel like the natural next step in a life that has learned how to move in harmony instead of fear. Faith changes financial direction in ways that are subtle at first and undeniable later. It rarely begins with a sudden increase in income or an instant solution to every problem. It begins inside the person who is facing the problem. Before money moves, belief moves. Before circumstances shift, perception shifts. Faith works quietly, adjusting how you interpret your situation, how you respond to pressure, and how you choose your next step when fear would normally freeze you in place. Without faith, financial struggle feels personal and permanent. Every setback becomes proof that things will never improve. Every delay feels like rejection. In that state, the mind narrows. Options disappear. Creativity shuts down. You begin making decisions simply to reduce discomfort, not to build a future. Faith interrupts this cycle. It introduces the idea that today's condition is not tomorrow's conclusion. That single idea creates space, and space allows new direction. When faith is present, you stop seeing money as something that happens to you, and start seeing it as something you can learn to work with. You become curious instead of ashamed. You ask better questions. You seek understanding rather than hiding from numbers, planning, or responsibility. That shift alone changes trajectory. People who face reality with faith make progress faster than those who avoid it out of fear. Faith also changes how you respond to opportunity. Without faith, opportunities feel risky, suspicious, or undeserved. You hesitate too long or talk yourself out of them. With faith, you still evaluate risks, but you do not automatically assume failure. You trust your ability to adapt if things do not go perfectly. That trust increases your willingness to act, and action is what creates momentum. Financial direction is shaped by habits more than events. Faith influences habits by changing motivation. When you believe improvement is possible, you are more likely to budget, save, learn new skills, or invest time into growth. When you believe nothing will change, those efforts feel pointless. Faith fuels consistency. Consistency changes outcomes. Another powerful effect of faith is how it reduces panic. Panic is expensive. It leads to rushed decisions, poor agreements, unnecessary debt, and emotional spending. Faith steadies the nervous system. It does not eliminate stress, but it prevents stress from controlling behavior. Calm people think longer term. They negotiate better. They choose quality over urgency. Over time, these calmer choices redirect financial flow. Faith also reshapes identity, and identity drives behavior. If you see yourself as someone who always struggles financially, you unconsciously protect that identity. You may reject growth because it feels unfamiliar. Faith allows you to adopt a new identity, someone learning, improving, and capable. When identity changes, choices follow. You begin acting in ways that align with who you are becoming, not who you were. Money decisions are deeply emotional, even when people pretend they are purely logical. Fear, pride, guilt, and shame all influence spending, earning, and saving. Faith brings emotional regulation. It reminds you that your worth is not measured by your bank balance. This reduces emotional reactivity. When emotions settle, judgment improves. Improved judgment leads to better financial direction. Faith also affects patience, which is critical in financial growth. Many financial mistakes happen because people want relief now instead of stability later. Faith gives you the strength to wait when waiting is wiser. It helps you say no to short-term fixes that carry long-term costs. It teaches you to endure temporary discomfort without sabotaging your future. Setbacks are inevitable. Faith determines whether setbacks derail you or refine you. Without faith, a loss feels final. With faith, it becomes feedback. You review what happened, adjust strategy, and move forward without drowning in regret. Learning compounds. Giving up does not. Over time, learners outperform quitters, even if they start with fewer resources. Faith also influences generosity and openness. When fear dominates, people cling tightly to money, opportunities, and control. This creates rigidity. Faith allows healthy flow. You share knowledge, time, or resources wisely, not recklessly. This openness often strengthens relationships, and strong relationships are one of the most powerful financial assets a person can have. Another way faith changes financial direction is through clarity of purpose. When you know why you want financial improvement, not just that you want it, decisions become aligned. You stop chasing money for validation and start using it as a tool for stability, contribution, or freedom. Purpose filters choices. It reduces distractions and increases focus. Faith also changes the language you use internally and externally. Words shape expectations. Repeated statements like "I'll never get ahead" or "money always leaves me" program the mind for repetition. Faith replaces these absolutes with growth-oriented language. "This is temporary. I am improving. I can learn better ways." These phrases keep the future open instead of sealed shut. As faith deepens, intuition strengthens. You become more sensitive to timing and alignment. You sense when a decision feels rushed or forced. You notice when something feels right, even if it requires courage. This intuition is not mystical guessing. It is awareness sharpened by calm attention. Faith quiets mental noise so insight can surface. Faith does not eliminate uncertainty. It changes your relationship with it. Instead of seeing uncertainty as danger, you see it as space where possibility exists. This makes you more adaptable. Adaptable people survive changes in markets, jobs, and circumstances better than rigid ones. Adaptability keeps financial direction flexible rather than fragile. Another important shift faith brings is how you ask for help. Many people struggle alone because they associate asking with failure. Faith reframes help as wisdom. You become willing to learn from others, seek mentorship, or collaborate. These connections often open doors that effort alone cannot. Financial growth rarely happens in isolation. Faith also reduces comparison. Comparing your financial journey to others creates discouragement or arrogance, both of which distort decision-making. Faith keeps attention on your own path. You measure progress by growth, not by someone else's highlight reel. This keeps motivation clean and sustainable. Over time, faith builds resilience. Resilience keeps you moving, even when progress is slow. Slow progress is still progress. Many people quit just before momentum builds because they mistake delay for failure. Faith keeps you steady through these quiet phases. It teaches you to trust the process without becoming passive. Eventually, when financial direction changes noticeably, it can feel sudden to outsiders. They see the promotion, the business growth, the debt reduction, or the stability and call it luck. They do not see the months or years of internal shifts, calmer decisions, patient habits, and guided risks that led there. Faith was working long before the results were visible. Faith changes financial direction because it changes the person navigating finances. When fear governs, direction narrows. When faith leads, direction opens. You still face challenges, but you face them with clarity instead of collapse. You make choices aligned with growth instead of survival alone. And over time, those aligned choices compound into a life that feels more stable, more supported, and more abundant. Not because faith ignored reality, but because it taught you how to move through reality with wisdom and trust. Gratitude signals readiness to receive, and this truth is far more powerful than most people realize. Many people live in a constant state of wanting, chasing, or complaining about what they lack. They focus so much on what has not arrived that they fail to notice what already exists. The mind fixates on scarcity, and scarcity becomes the lens through which life is interpreted. Gratitude interrupts that pattern. Gratitude shifts focus from absence to presence, from worry to awareness, and from frustration to acknowledgement. This shift, subtle as it may seem, is the foundation for receiving more, not just money, but opportunities, guidance, and support. When you are truly grateful, You align yourself with abundance. Gratitude is not a passive thank you, said out of habit. It is an active recognition of the energy, resources, and relationships already supporting you. Every small moment you notice, the roof over your head, the food on your table, the people who care about you, is a signal to life that you are ready for more. That signal is powerful because it changes your internal frequency. Life responds to energy, not just words. When your energy shifts from lack to appreciation, doors open that were previously invisible. Gratitude also reconditions the mind. Repeatedly noticing and acknowledging what is present trains your brain to scan for positives instead of negatives. You begin to see opportunities where before you only saw obstacles. A job offer that seemed minor suddenly becomes a stepping stone. A small financial gift feels like the start of a larger flow. The mind interprets these signs as encouragement, and encouragement motivates action. Action, taken from appreciation rather than fear, is more effective, strategic, and aligned. Many people mistakenly believe that they must receive first in order to be grateful. They think, I'll be thankful when the money comes, or I'll be happy when my situation improves. This backward logic keeps them in waiting, constantly deferring acknowledgement until conditions are perfect. True gratitude reverses this pattern. You practice appreciation now, before the breakthrough appears, and that readiness draws the breakthrough faster. By being grateful first, you signal preparedness to receive, and the universe responds to preparedness. Gratitude also softens resistance. When you focus on lack, you tighten around fear, scarcity, and worry. Your energy contracts. You approach opportunities cautiously, protect resources anxiously, and make decisions out of pressure rather than strategy. Gratitude expands energy. It relaxes the mind, opens the heart, and creates mental and emotional space for innovation, inspiration, and synchronicity. In this space, money, ideas, and solutions begin to flow naturally. Financial miracles often occur when gratitude is cultivated consistently, not just in moments of temporary relief. Writing down what you are thankful for, speaking it aloud, or consciously acknowledging it in thought repeatedly trains the nervous system to stay in a receptive state. Receptive states attract help, cooperation, and unexpected provision. People who practice daily gratitude notice small coincidences that lead to significant financial gain. A call from the right person, a timely idea, or an unforeseen opportunity often appears when you are aligned with appreciation. Gratitude also influences relationships, which are a critical component of financial and personal growth. When you acknowledge the contributions of others, express appreciation sincerely, and recognize support, your interactions become more positive. People respond to gratitude with cooperation and generosity. Connections strengthen. Doors open that might otherwise remain closed. Relationships are the conduits through which many financial opportunities flow, and gratitude lubricates those channels. Furthermore, gratitude reshapes perception during challenges. When setbacks occur, it is easy to feel defeated or resentful. Gratitude, however, allows you to see lessons, silver linings, and hidden opportunities within difficulties. This does not mean denying the hardship or pretending it is enjoyable. It means recognizing that every challenge carries information and potential for growth. By focusing on what is constructive or supportive, even in difficulty, you maintain a state that keeps opportunities flowing rather than closing off under stress. Gratitude also enhances clarity in decision-making. When you are appreciative of what is working, you are less likely to make reactive choices. Emotional reactivity often leads to financial mistakes, impulsive spending, or poor investment decisions. Gratitude stabilizes emotions, allowing the mind to process information calmly and strategically. Clarity leads to better judgment, and better judgment leads to improved outcomes over time. One of the most powerful aspects of gratitude is how it interacts with faith. Gratitude strengthens trust that life is unfolding as it should. When you are thankful, you reinforce the belief that provision is already available, even if it has not manifested fully yet. This trust reduces anxiety about outcomes and allows you to act from confidence rather than desperation. Faith and gratitude together create a feedback loop. Faith encourages gratitude, and gratitude strengthens faith, creating a fertile environment for breakthroughs. Gratitude also transforms self-perception. People often struggle with the belief that they are undeserving of success or abundance. By consistently practicing appreciation, even for small wins, you reinforce the idea that you are worthy of support and prosperity. Worthiness is a critical foundation for receiving, because much of financial flow depends on self-perception. When you believe you are worthy, you take aligned action confidently. When you doubt worthiness, opportunities are missed or ignored. Gratitude encourages proactive engagement with life. It inspires initiative because appreciation highlights what is present, what works, and what resources are available. Instead of waiting for an external miracle, you notice leverage points in your current situation. You see what you can do, who you can connect with, and which steps will lead to greater progress. Action informed by gratitude is measured, intentional, and highly effective. Gratitude also builds resilience. Life inevitably brings uncertainty, setbacks, and unexpected challenges. A person who maintains gratitude during difficulty experiences less stress and maintains momentum. Stress often leads to poor financial and personal decisions, but gratitude reduces the perceived weight of challenges, making it easier to adapt, problem solve, and persist. Over time, this resilience compounds into sustained success. Daily gratitude, especially when expressed intentionally, creates a ripple effect in energy and perception. Small acts, thankful notes, journaling, silent reflection, or verbal acknowledgement train the subconscious mind to scan for positives. Once the subconscious is tuned to recognize abundance, you naturally notice and act upon opportunities. Financial doors begin to open in ways that feel effortless because your internal state aligns with the flow of life. Gratitude also reframes relationships with resources themselves. Money, time, and energy are often treated with anxiety or guilt. Gratitude changes this. By appreciating what you already have, you shift from scarcity to stewardship. You make wiser financial decisions, invest carefully, and allocate resources with intention. That responsible approach increases financial stability and multiplies potential opportunities. The practice of gratitude extends beyond immediate gains. It cultivates long-term wealth consciousness. People who habitually express appreciation develop a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. This mindset informs career choices, business strategies, and investments. It influences how they interact with others and how they respond to setbacks. Over years, this consistent perspective leads to financial outcomes that reflect abundance rather than lack. Gratitude is also a catalyst for creativity and innovation. When the mind is focused on appreciation instead of deficiency, it can perceive new possibilities. Financial challenges may appear solvable, new streams of income may become visible, and ideas for expansion or improvement emerge. Creativity is a natural consequence of the expanded mental and emotional space gratitude provides. In practical terms, gratitude can be applied to finances by acknowledging even small successes, a payment made on time, a savings goal achieved, a timely bonus, or even a minor act of support from someone else are all reasons to be thankful. Recognizing these encourages you to continue making aligned choices, reinforces a sense of progress, and keeps energy flowing toward future opportunities. Gratitude also influences how others perceive you. A person who consistently appreciates help, guidance, and opportunities becomes magnetically attractive in both personal and professional spheres. People are naturally drawn to positive, appreciative energy. That attraction often results in more support, collaboration, and financial opportunity, sometimes from sources you would never expect. Moreover, gratitude expands awareness. When you are thankful, you become aware of resources you may have previously overlooked. Perhaps a skill, a connection, or an opportunity existed in your life, but went unnoticed because your mind was focused on lack. Gratitude shifts attention, revealing hidden advantages that can be leveraged to improve financial direction and life outcomes. Ultimately, gratitude signals readiness to receive because it embodies openness, trust, and recognition. By cultivating gratitude consistently, you create alignment between internal state and external opportunity. Life responds to that alignment by providing resources, ideas, and circumstances that reflect the abundance you are acknowledging. Gratitude is not passive. It is an active, strategic, and transformative practice that primes you for miracles, financial breakthroughs, and deeper fulfillment. It is the invisible key that turns potential into reality, aligning your mind, heart, and actions with the flow of life, so that what you are ready to receive arrives in ways that feel timely, natural, and abundant.